I want to call to order the meeting of the Portsmouth City Council, and I want to thank my colleagues and the citizens of Portsmouth for your attendance tonight. In accordance with Governor Waff Northam's declaration of a state of emergency due to the novel coronavirus, Executive Order 51 on March 12, 2020, and the local declaration of emergency ratified by the Portsmouth City Council, and due to the coronavirus pandemic, which is continuing in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This called meeting of the Portsmouth City Council is being held in video conference on the 9th day of March 2021 without a quorum present in the City Council chamber in order to reduce the likely spread of the coronavirus in accordance with City Council Ordinance 2020-21 and 2020-102. Each council member is participating from their home or other remote location, and I am in the City Council chamber. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Mr. Battle.
Here.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke.
Present.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker.
Present.
Mr. Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Glover.
Here. Members of council, we have for our consideration the minutes of a virtual call meeting on February 22nd, 2021, a virtual call meeting on February 23rd, 2021, and a virtual regular meeting on February 23rd, 2021. Is there any discussion of the minutes? If not, we are in need of a motion.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Madam Clerk, would you please read our speaker statement?
Yes, sir.
Ladies
and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak.
As you
As you approach the speaker's podium, excuse me, while speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited in matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Dr. Whitaker, could you hold for a minute? I have a statement I need to make, please,
Okay.
sir. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we move on with tonight's agenda, I want to stress the need for respecting not only our speakers, but amongst us council members. I realized following the last meeting that I cut off one of our council members during him making his comments. And for that, I privately apologize to the council member. We are all in this together, moving forward. Hopefully we can all move forward in promoting the best interest for the city of Portsmouth. My sincere apologies and thank you for listening. Dr. Whitaker, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members, I spoke with Mayor Glover and also Vice Mayor Barnes today about changing the order of the agenda so that we would have the hearing of the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority members before the public hearings. so that we will not have to stop our meeting and conduct a hearing in the middle of our meeting. And so if our fellow council members are in agreement with that, I have a motion that I'd like to make. In accordance with City Council rules and procedures, I move that we change the order of business to conduct the hearings for the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority members prior to the planning public hearing items.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Dr. Whitaker, sir?
Yes, and so, Mr. Mayor, yes, since we changed that, then I would like to just make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. This is a legislative hearing pursuant to the provisions of Section 36-17 of the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended. This section pertains to the removal of commissioners from local redevelopment and housing authorities. This state code section provides that the local governing bodies, such as the Portsmouth City Council, may remove a commissioner from the housing authority for inefficiency or neglect of duty or misconduct in office only after the commissioner has had the opportunity to be heard in hearing before the governing body. In addition, the governing body must give the commissioner a 10-day notice in advance of the hearing. The commissioner may appear to provide city council any testimony and documents as to why that commissioner thinks that the city council should not remove him as a commissioner to the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority. In addition to our usual video recording of this hearing, we have a court reporter who will develop a verbatim transcript of this evening's hearing. In this regard, all speakers during the hearing are asked to speak as clearly as possible. All speakers are asked to be recognized before speaking. Members of City Council, it is recommended that each speaker be given ample opportunity to speak and provide any evidence. City Council will only consider those charges that are included in the February 26, 2021 letter that City Council sent to each commissioner in question. We will begin with the city clerk reading for the record the February 26, 2021 letter that the commissioner received. Then the commissioner will have the opportunity to address City Council.
Mayor.
Council members may. Yes, Mr. Moody.
Mayor, that letter we're certainly aware of. I don't think the public is aware of the letter. I think it'd be good to read the letter. It's not a long letter, but I think the public has the right to know what the content was.
Councilman Moody, I'm going to read the letter once the mayor finishes his statement.
Okay, thank you, Ms. White.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Council members may, upon recognition, ask any questions at the end of that particular commissioner's presentation. Once all three commissioners have completed, once all two commissioners have completed their individual hearing before council, this body will decide whether it would like to entertain a motion to go into closed session or discuss whether or not to remove the commissioners or decide to discuss publicly. It is the council's intention to publicly vote on the question of the removal or any or all two of the commissioners during this meeting. We will now proceed with the actual hearing and will hear the commissioners in this order.
Council members, I will read. Our first commissioner is Mr. Edward Barham IV, and his letter reads, Mr. Edward Barham IV, please be advised that at its regular meeting on March 9th, 2021, the City Council of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia intends to consider your removal as a member of the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. The charge asserted as constituting grounds for removal pursuant to Section 36-17 of the Code of Virginia is as follows. Inefficiency and or neglect of duty based on your absence of a total of 5 meetings during the period of January 20th through January 21st. Specifically, the PRHA records reflect that you were absent from the regular PRHA board meetings of January 2020, September 2020, October 2020, and January 2021, and that you were absent from a specially called PRHA board meeting in June 2020. At the March 9th City Council meeting, to any vote by the City Council on your removal. You have the right to appear and be heard personally or by counsel at this hearing. Because City Council's meetings are currently held virtually, it will be necessary to provide you a special link or dial-in information to access the meeting. Therefore, if you intend to appear at the hearing, please contact City Clerk Deborah White by no later than 5 p.m. Monday, March 8th, 2021, so that she can arrange to provide you access. And it's signed by our mayor. You're muted.
Mayor, you're on mute.
Thank you, Councilmember Moody. Councilmember Moody, I'm sorry. No, but in any event, do we have Mr. Barham? Are you on the line, sir? Are you?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Glover, Vice Mayor Barnes, and esteemed members of City Council. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I've had the pleasure of serving on the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board since November of 2019, and I must say I was surprised to receive your letter considering my removal from this board for dereliction of duty. The letter referenced absences at 4 regularly scheduled and 1 special called meeting of the board. I'm hopeful that upon hearing the circumstances surrounding these absences, you will allow me the privilege to continue serving our community through the PRHA board. My first regularly scheduled absence was January 2020. I was attending a work conference in a foreign country during that meeting, which I vocalized to Executive Director Bland and my fellow board members prior to my absence. My most recent absence was the January 2021 meeting. I received major spine surgery in January. I wish to keep this information private, so I did not notify my fellow board members prior to my absence. The other 3 meetings referenced in the letter I received were June 2020, September 2020, and October 2020. Each of these meetings occurred during a business day at 1 p.m. When the board meetings switched to a virtual format last spring due to the global pandemic, our meeting time changed from 5 p.m. to 1 p.m. I was able to attend 5 consecutive meetings under the new schedule. However, I informed my fellow commissioners and Mr. Bland that the 1 p.m. meeting time was very difficult for me to attend due to my professionals. As a full-time employee of a growing small business, I simply could not attend each of the meetings scheduled under the new time frame, and I was unable to clear my schedule for the June special called meetings and the September and October regular meetings due to their occurrence during normal working hours. I can assure you that I read each of the documents sent to us prior to and after the meetings, reached out to my fellow board members and Mr. Bland with any necessary communication between meetings, and watched the recordings of each meeting that I missed. I did everything in my power to exceed my duties as a board member when I missed a meeting due to a schedule conflict. Dereliction of duty refers specifically to neglect or negligence, none of which are words I would use to describe my attention to the duties trusted to me as a PRHA board member. I believe that my commitment to my position is further exemplified via the feedback you have each received from Mr. Bland, requesting that I be allowed to continue my service on the board. In closing, I will say I'm extremely proud of this city, and I take great pride in the service of our community. I've lived in Portsmouth for my entire life, and I own 2 homes in our wonderful city. I've been a commissioner on the Historic Preservation Commission for nearly 4 years and currently serve as the vice chair. I'm a graduate of the Van Lefko Leadership Course. I've served as a board member on the Museums Foundation for 3 years. I was recently appointed to the Maryview Hospital Community Collaborative Advisory Council. To say I am passionate about improving our hometown is absolutely an understatement. I can assure you that I take the duties of each of my voluntary leadership positions extremely seriously, and that certainly applies to my position on the PRHA board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barham, for your comments, and I would like to say we do appreciate your service to the city of Portsmouth. To my colleagues, are there any questions that you have at this time for Mr. Barham?
All right, Mayor.
Councilmember Moody, sir, you have the floor.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Barham for his willingness to serve our city in his current capacity. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank Mr. Barham for his commitment and willingness to serve on these boards and commissions. It is not easy. And I too had some conflicts as a former liaison with the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority. They moved the meetings from 5 p.m. to 1 p.m. And I know that there was a letter sent to council that I was aware of the time change. Of course, I was aware of the time frame, but I don't have it my business, or it's not my duty to track commissioners' times that they can attend. I know when I'm having a conflict because I do run a business during the day as well, and the 1 o'clock time frames were difficult for me to meet sometimes during the day when the meetings changed as well. So I worked alongside, well, not worked alongside, but I was there as a liaison for the last year when I saw Mr. Barham. He was very engaged in his process. He asked good questions, and it's not easy to get people to serve and to be committed to service. So I thank you for your service and your willingness to continue to serve.
Thank you.
Councilmember Woodard.
I also want to thank Mr. Byrne for his service on the PRH board as well. And I just want to make sure that it was 4 scheduled meetings and 1 special meeting. Is that what you said in your letter?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barham, once again. And now we'll hear from the next board commissioner, Mr. Sean Prince. Sir, are you with us?
Yes,
Thank
Can you hear me?
you for joining us, sir.
thank you.
You have the floor, Mr. Prince.
Thank you, council, for letting me speak. I'm sorry. I had my phone on. I could not speak any better than Ms. Burham in regards to the dates and times that were missed. And mine had to do with sick veteran father that has been on his own since my mom died. And the time frames, I believe in May and June, were not conducive to me being able to take care of him and serve the board. Then in December and January, I had COVID and actually had residual effects from COVID thereafter. So my apologies for missing those meetings, but unfortunately, life had me, and I'm just I am very committed to being on the board. I've also been on HPC, and I'm committed to doing my public duty. I moved here for a reason. Worked at Mirabee for 30 years, and will to continue to do so. And that's all that I have.
Well, Mr. Prince, I want to thank you for your service to the community and your commitment to the work that you've done. Council members, do you have any questions for Mr. Prince? Did I see you raise your hand, Councilwoman Lucas-Burke?
Yes,
You have the
yes.
floor, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Same situation. I also was a liaison during the time where we appointed Mr. Prince and served as a liaison. So I've watched both of these gentlemen in their interaction and their engagement with the PRHA, and I don't think that those were derelictions of duties. I think just like they say, life takes on, and if they're willing to serve, I'm definitely there for them. I've communicated with them during their time as liaisons, and then with Mr. Prince outside with his community involvement in his community. I know that he loves his community, and I know that his impact is important and needed in the PRHA. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lucas-Burke. And Councilmember Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to thank Mr. Prince for his service. Him and Mr. Barron both are quality volunteers. I've been on liaison positions and seen both in action. My colleague mentioned that they do ask excellent questions. They're the type of volunteer that we need more of, quite frankly. So I will support retaining both of them.
Thank you, sir. And I do have something that I wish to say in regards to a letter that I received from Mr. Edward Bland, the Executive Director of the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing. And I want the public to know, and I want to read it for the public. Dear Mayor and members of City Council, it was brought to our attention that some members of City Council have concerns regarding Mr. Edward Barham and
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Sean.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just the point of order for our hearing. We can't be witnesses and also hearers.
Okay.
I know
Very
what you.
Very well, sir.
Yeah.
Very well, sir. Is that that is fine. We will then proceed, but I will still put forward to my colleagues on council at this time. Do we wish to proceed in this matter in a public forum or in a closed forum? Yes, sir.
I would just suggest that it's already on our agenda for boards and commission, and if there's any discussion, we can do it at that point.
Okay. Is that a suggestion that everyone? But I'm asking, are we going to do it in a public forum or in a private forum? I guess we need clarification on that. Are we going to do it in a closed meeting or a public meeting?
I support a public meeting.
Yeah, I do too. Public.
Okay. That's what. So then it sounds like it is the pleasure to continue on in public. Since we are here, I know there was a suggestion from Dr. Whitaker. Are we okay with doing this in the boards and commissions section, or do we continue on with where we are currently since we're already here?
In the motion, I don't think we moved the vote. in the
No,
motion to.
I guess this is more of a discussion that we're having. We're still in the discussion phase. I, 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 I didn't think that there was a motion to take the vote at this time. But we were still in the discussion phase.
Can I add one thing? I just want to remind everybody that we do have a court reporter here, so he would have to stop recording and then come back, I guess, and record at the time you take the vote. Is that what's anticipated?
Why do we have to delay the vote?
Right. That was my
Okay.
point. Why do we? I mean,
Right.
if we're going to vote, if we're going to vote at the point of the program where it's boards and commissions, we're here right now.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think Dr. Whitaker's motion would have covered voting also. I
All
think.
right. Okay. Thank you, Attorney Strummer.
But
Sure.
I do need to address the point of order with the statement that I was making. Can you clarify that point of order as it relates to the statement I was making? And am I at liberty to make that statement, or do we need to?
You know, I don't really see you as a witness. There's been a letter sent. Of course, we don't have strict rules of evidence here. It's just, we could put the letter into evidence. I'm surprised council members did not get the letter. Did you all not receive the letter?
Yeah.
Yes, every one of them received.
Yes,
Okay.
but the letter has been referenced and partially read in public. So I think it's only fitting that that the mayor be allowed to finish reading the letter.
My point, Attorney Strummer, was just simply, I don't know if we want to set a precedent of presenting evidence for persons at a hearing. That would be for them to read the letter. Although we received it through our emails, that's not for us to present the letter at a hearing on the behalf of other parties. I don't know if that's a role that we should be playing in a hearing when we're the ones that are supposed to be listening impartially.
It's sort of a fine line. I mean, he's not really testifying. He's just reading a letter that was sent to everybody, and I think the public probably has a right to hear it, as long as he sticks to the letter and doesn't add anything, or somebody independent like myself could read the letter if that makes council feel better. But it was sent to everybody, and since we're in public session, I think it probably should be read by somebody so the public can hear it.
Yeah, I was just saying that it should be read by the ones who are here presenting the evidence.
Yeah, probably. You're probably technically right, Dr. Whitaker. Would you mind if I read the letter?
Well, does Mr. Prince or Mr. Barham have the letter?
Yes, sir, I do. I'm pulling up our HA email now. I'd be happy to read it.
Yeah, Mr. Barham, I think it'd be proper for one of them to read it.
No, that's good. Good solution.
Yes, sir. Just a moment while I pull up the PRHA email, please. Apologize, my internet's a little slow with the video call running at the same time. And just to verify, I'm sorry I lost you on the call for a moment. This is the letter from Executive Director Bland to each of the council members.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I have it here if I may. Dear Mayor and members of City Council, it was brought to our attention that some members of City Council have concerns regarding Mr. Edward Barham and Mr. Sean Prince to the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board. This memo is to clarify their standing. As you know, COVID-19 has resulted in many changes to the operations at most organizations, including PRHA. A couple of our meetings were canceled in the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. Subsequently, a majority of the board voted to change the meeting from 5 p.m. to 1 p.m. beginning May 2020. This change in time inadvertently caused a conflict with Mr. Barham and Mr. Prince's work schedule, resulting in them missing several meetings. Additionally, Mr. Prince contracted COVID, which resulted in him missing another meeting. Mr. Barham and Mr. Prince advised me that they were having challenges attending the 1 p.m. board meetings. They stated that they had accepted the position as a board member. It was with an understanding that the meetings would be held at 5 p.m. Their concern and valid assertion resulted in us changing the meeting back to 5 p.m. as of November 2020. Mr. Barham and Mr. Prince have been an asset to our board. The authority would hate to have a negative connotation attached to them when their absence was due to a change made outside of their control. Please note that our former City Council liaison, Ms. Lisa Lucas-Burke, was also aware of the time change of the meetings. As previously stated, PRHA has since moved our meeting time back to the original scheduled time, and we do not anticipate Mr. Barham and Mr. Prince having any issues going forward. Best regards, Edward Bland, Executive Director.
You're mute again, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Barham and colleagues. At this time, do we have any further discussion in this matter? Hearing no further discussion, is there a motion to vote on this matter?
So moved.
Second.
The first will be for Mr. Edward Barham IV. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Let me make sure this, Mr. Moody said so move. Is that for removal?
No, there was a motion. We need a motion to take the vote.
You need a full motion, Councilman Moody.
I move that we retain the services of Mr. Prince and Mr. Barham for their respective commissioner positions with PRHA.
Second.
But we need to do one at a time.
Right.
Okay, let me redo that. I move that we retain the services of Mr. Barham as a commissioner on PRHA.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Point of order. And this is for Attorney Stromberg, just so we make sure we're doing things in proper order. The Virginia Code specifically spells out that you informed us of that there are certain criteria that must be met to remove the commissioner. And so the motion is not to retain, but the motion needs to be to remove. Are we correct on that?
You are correct, Dr. Whitaker. The motion should be for the removal of the commissioners. They're still on the commission. So just make the motion from the other side. You move to, if there's a motion to remove, that's how it should be stated.
Right.
What I couldn't hear the attorney very well. It's a motion not to remove.
It would be a motion to remove if there's any motion whatsoever. If one of you wants to make a motion to remove one of these commissioners, that's how you make it. To remove, as Dr. Whitaker mentioned.
So to take no action.
They would stay on.
They would stay on.
Yes.
Well, I move that this council take no action. Reference Mr. Barham.
The better way is just to withdraw your motion. Well, I guess you can move it that way, or you can just withdraw your motion.
No, I'd rather have a record that we've actually taken action not to remove Mr. Barham. I think there should be a record of it.
You can't have two motions on the floor like that at the same time. You have to. You made a motion.
You know, I think we're really complicating something that shouldn't even been to this point. So I withdraw my previous motion, and I make the motion not to remove Mr. Barham from his housing authority position.
Second.
Clerk?
Any discussion?
Is there any discussion on the motion?
And Mr. Mayor, the way
Yes,
he
sir.
worded it, a yes vote is not to remove, a no vote is to remove.
Say that again for everybody's sake, please, sir.
Mr. Stromberg, Attorney Stromberg,
Yes, sir.
the way he worded his motion, a yes vote is not to remove, and a no vote is to remove.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Mr. Barnes,
No.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
No.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes.
This item passes 5-2 to not remove. Mr.
Thank you.
Now we need a motion for Mr. Prince.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilwoman Lucas-Burke.
Yes. I move that we not remove Sean Prince from PRHA board.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Barnes,
No.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
No.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes.
This item is approved 5-2 to not remove Mr. Prince.
Thank you both again for your service to the Portsmouth community. We fully expect that you will continue and have success in your role. Good evening.
Thank you.
Moving right along with our agenda, we have reached our public hearing portion. We have a public hearing, item 2187, A and B. Madam Clerk, please read the captions of our rezoning and use permit items.
Yes, sir. Because these two items are linked together, I'm going to read both items. The public hearings will be held separately, and you will vote separately. The applicant will speak to both items. Okay. Item A, D 20-10 downtown. Robert C. Barclay IV of Cooper Spond and Davis PC request to rezone approximately 5.38 acres at 0 Effingham Street from downtown D1 T5 subdistrict to general mixed use in order to develop a self-service storage facility. The applicant is concurrently requesting a use permit for the self-service storage facility use UP 2011. The future
Land use map, a use permit comprehensive plan designates the property as mixed use zone. The property is owned by the redevelopment and housing authority.
Miss White, we can't hear you that well.
Yeah, you're fading out again. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
It's very faint.
I'm using a new set of headphones here, so I'm a little challenged. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Not very
faint.
well.
How about now?
It's better, but it's a little faint.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It got worse again.
Council members, I'm using the mayor's computer right this second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. My headphones and computer is on the blink. Okay, I'm sorry. Z20-10 downtown Robert C. Barclay IV of Cooper Spong and Davis PC requests to rezone approximately 5.38 acres at 0 Effingham Street from downtown D1 T5 subdistrict to general mixed use in order to develop a self-service storage facility. The applicant is concurrently requesting a use permit for the self-service storage facility use UP 2011. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates the property as mixed use employment. The property is owned by the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Planning Commission recommends approval. Item B, UP 2011, downtown Robert C. Barclay IV of Cooper Spong and Davis, PC, requests a use permit for a three-story, 103,350 square foot climate controlled self service storage facility with 793 units at 0 Effingham Street. The property is currently zoned D1 in the T5 subdistrict. The applicant is concurrently requesting a rezoning of the property to general mixed use, zoning district Z20-10. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates the property as mixed-use employment. The property is owned by the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Planning Commission. Mr. Barclay, are you available to make your presentation at this time?
Yes, I am. And there are several other folks that are want to make sure they're up from the waiting room and in the meeting. In particular, John Williams. He's the principal with the applicant. because he's emailed me and said he's still in the waiting room on the Microsoft Teams platform.
Rob, this is Meg, and we saw him earlier. I do not see him sitting in the waiting room now.
You don't?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna, if you'll bear with me a second, I'm emailing him and I'm gonna have to make sure that he rejoins. Yeah, I've emailed him.
Council members, while we're waiting for Mr. Mr. Barclay's group to come on board, if you are not speaking, can you please mute your device? We're getting notes that we're getting lots of feedback and background noise, if you don't mind.
Okay, I see. Looks like Mr. Williams has joined us now. See him there. So, all right. If you're ready, I'll start. I hear a lot of feedback. Okay, that's better. All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Robert Barclay. My business address is 200 High Street, Suite 500, Portsmouth, Virginia 23704. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Safe Store Real Estate Company, LLC. And they are a national developer of climate-controlled, state-of-the-art self-storage facilities. Safe Store has entered into a contract with the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority to purchase the property on Effingham Street where the old Washington Park housing project was once located. Safe Store specializes in adaptively reusing underutilized properties, and particularly those that have a number of challenges, such as this property. In particular, this property was once a Superfund site and has significant constraints on what can be done on the property for environmental reasons. No residential property can ever be developed on this site pursuant to deed restrictions placed on it by the Environmental Protection Agency. The staff has done a very thorough report, which I'm sure has been provided to you, and we're in concurrence with that report and the Planning Commission's recommendation. Right now, the property is owned by PRHA, so it's tax exempt and is producing no revenue for the city. In the 1990s, lead contamination was discovered on the site, and the tenants were relocated, and the housing complex was demolished. That was done in 2006. Since then, the site has remained vacant. In addition to the environmental challenges, there are several utility and stormwater drainage easements that crisscross the property, constraining its footprint for development. And it's also in a flood zone. Through an extensive amount of planning, Safe Store has overcome these obstacles and is prepared to put a state-of-the-art facility on the property should you approve the rezoning and use permit tonight. I'd like to now turn this over to John Williams, who is a principal with Safe Store. John's joining us from Atlanta, and he can fill you in more detail on the project itself and some of the things that Safe Store will do in the community to benefit Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Councilman, I appreciate your time. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
As Rob said, we're excited to become one of your neighbors in Portsmouth. Safe Stores worked really hard over the course of the last 3 or 4 years to build a reputation of actually being a part of the community and not just in the community. We have been working very diligently on this site for months now, trying to get our hands around exactly the situation with the Superfund site issue and the lead contamination. I know that there's a lot of history with this site. I know there's a lot of history with this site in the community, and the fact that there was once a housing project on this site that had to be torn down because of the lead contamination is something that's not lost on myself or Andrew Young, my partner in Safe Store. We've got a quality product. We've got what we think is probably the nicest architecture for a storage facility in the nation, really. I mean, we're doing one of these a month up and down the East Coast and across to Texas. So we've got a lot of experience in doing this. Very few developers will have the experience we have to deal with a site like this. We've done other Superfund sites. We've done other lead contaminated sites. In fact, one of the most lead contaminated sites in Atlanta, we redeveloped. It was also a Superfund site. So, how is Safe Store going to become a part of the community? We understand, and we've tried to understand some of the dynamics that are affecting this area of Portsmouth at this time. And we know that there's a lot of issues surrounding developers coming in from the outside, not really taking into account diversity and inclusion, and how we can really become a part and be integrated in the community. And that's sometimes can be a tough conversation to have. But I like to think that we continue to get better with every project. About 2 years ago, we were working on a project in Irving, Texas, and they asked what we could do for the community, and we did a couple things for them then, and we continued to add to our platform. The meeting in Irving, Texas, actually, I told them I would tell people every time I had a zoning hearing that they're the reason why Safe Store has donated 3 of our units for people who may be in need for free. We work with a local nonprofit, and it could be the People of Hope, it could be the fire department, it could be a church, for people that may have been displaced because of their, a home fire or a loss of job or employment. And we put those 3 units up and allowed them to use those for free. The other thing that came out of that Urban Texas meeting was that we started adding police substations in our buildings. When I met with the neighborhood group in this area, there was a police officer there, and I know that there's plans for eventually having another police station around the area, but we're happy to host and have a police substation within this building if it's something that the chief of police and the council feels like would be of service. And in areas that are taking advantage of that, we just simply put a sign on the outside of the door, on the outside of the building, saying police substation. People in the community know it's there. The officers have access to the building 24 hours a day. They can get out of the weather, they can get warm, they can get the reports, they can get a cup of coffee, they can connect to our Wi-Fi, really be, kind of like that. And we do other stuff too, like enhanced landscaping and, really try to follow all the rules and give everyone what they want. But Portsmouth going forward will be what I believe takes Safe Store to the next level as far as a corporate citizen. We heard early on that we were going to be asked about what are we going to give back to the community? How are we going to bring the minority community into the fold here in Portsmouth? And so I started thinking, I had already met diversity and inclusion consultant Shane Foster and Dr. Anita Foster, who run a business called Foster and Healthy Solutions. They were already helping me with my other business, which is a civil engineering and surveying business. So I immediately brought them on board to help us kind of codify a strategic plan for Portsmouth. And we came up with some stuff, and I believe you guys sent a presentation. I would like to go over it really quickly if it's okay. because I think this is important stuff, and I think that we're on the cusp of really doing some good things, not just for Portsmouth, but also for Safe Store and every community that we work in, because we're doing this 12 times a year in every community, and it's an issue everywhere we go. So as I said, we've already retained a diversity and inclusion consultant, and they are available tonight if you have any questions for them. They're both on this meeting, and what we asked of them was to help us analyze the surrounding area of the project site and focus on identifying minority businesses and their interests, help us formulate a strategic plan and strategic diversity and inclusion plan. We've actually already had a call with all 5 of our general contractors. We already know who the general contractor is going to be on this job, but we have 4 other general contractors, and we had about a 2-hour, hour-and-a-half long call with them, because we're going to expand what we're doing for the Portsmouth community down through our general contractors. That's where we can make the most impact in the community, and they've all embraced the idea. They all understand that diversity and inclusion is so important, and how we go about taking the first steps to be a better company, be a better contractor, be a better partner. So we also, Fostering Healthy Solutions are going to be responsible for delivering the on-site diversity and inclusion training for the contractors, the subcontractors, and the workers on the site. We're going to host a 2.5-hour sensitivity training on-site during construction that will be open to all trades and laborers. We're going to also before we ever start construction, we will be advertising and hosting an information session somewhere in the community. Our GC will be there with all the plans. So the goal is to let everyone in the community know that this is happening. And if somebody wants to come and find out there's a job opportunity from a labor standpoint, or a subcontractor, minority or otherwise, local subcontractor wants to come and bid on the job, with the goal of us offering equitable access to employment opportunities. So we'll be hosting that a couple months before we actually start construction. And, like I said, we want to ensure that qualified minority contractors have the opportunity to bid on the project. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to be taking that list of minority contractors and business interests in the area. We'll be posting those in the job trailers. Our superintendents and GCs will be aware of them and what they can do by patronizing those communities. And it could be, subcontractors, contractors, other businesses, and restaurants. I mean, we're ordering food all the time for job sites, and there's no reason why, we can't do our part to help support the minority restaurant community in the community. Our commitment to Portsmouth is that our GC will coordinate at least 2 opportunities for volunteerism associated with our build, such as an Adopt a Park program, a cleanup day, or staff in the soup kitchen for the day, Habitat for Humanity build. And these volunteer hours will be tracked and posted for both awareness and accountability. And then finally, the one that I'm most passionate about, because we're actually already doing it in our company in Athens, Georgia, for surveying. We've asked our GC to get in touch with the local schools, middle and high schools, and talk to students about career opportunities in construction, skilled trade industry, with the goal of informing students of potential career paths and opportunities. So we're actually going to take our GCs and take some subcontractors into the school system, assuming that we're welcomed by the school system, with the goal of talking to us, having several opportunities to talk to students about, what it means to become an electrician, a plumber, HVAC contractor, a general contractor, and hopefully have some impact and be able to, give these kids some a little bit of stuff to aspire to. So Safe Store is not going to stop with Portsmouth. Right now, if you look on our website, we have a lot of stuff about our community givebacks, but diversity and inclusion is not one of them. It's something that's new on my radar. It's new on our radar, and it's something that I've actually already set a goal in W&A engineering that we're going to embrace by the end of 2021, and make sure we're doing everything that we can do to set up a fair and even playing field. for everyone in our business and industry. And Safe Stores adopted the same mentality. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to be a good partner. We believe that putting this property back on the tax roll, giving some cash to the housing authority that frees them up to go do some other good work that they're good at doing, it's going to be a really great thing. And not very many people can develop this property. I mean, I'll say it again. There's very few uses that will be allowed on this site because of the lead contamination on the site and the Superfund stipulations that are on the site. In addition, it's going to require something that's big enough to kind of stomach the fill dirt and the easements and everything we have to relocate from a cost standpoint. But it's also got to be kind of small enough to fit within the parameters of all that stuff that we're working around on the site. It's really been a puzzle that my team's worked hard to figure out. I know I'm talking fast. I don't really know how much time I've got. I don't want to wear you guys out, but I'll stop here. I'll pause here, ask you if you've got any questions for me. For my team that's on the call, I think we have our general contractor on the call. We have our local civil, I believe, on the call. Of course, Rob, our attorney, and then our diversity and inclusion consultants, Dr. Foster and Shane Foster as well. I can't hear you. Is it Mr. Mayor?
Thank you again, sir, for explaining your project to us. And I want to ask Madam Clerk before we get to our council members, are there any registered speakers for this item?
Yes, sir. We have one speaker, Mr. Barry Randall.
Mr. Randall, sir, are you present? Madam Clerk, before we get to our council members, are there any registered speakers for this item? You have 5 minutes, sir. Thank you for being here tonight.
We have one speaker, Mr. Barry Randall.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Barry Randall. I'm here tonight representing the Civic League. I serve as the president of the Brighton Prentice Park Civic League. I believe this company did come by our Civic League meeting on last month. Because of COVID-19, my vice president and I, we're alternating with our executive staff. We're only meeting with the executive staff right now, but we did want to keep everything open so that we can be abreast of what's happening in our community. They did come by, and I was given a report by my vice president, and we just had one concern, and that was simply being that it was stated the amount of lead that is still on that site. But I guess because no one will be living there, it was stated that is why I guess it should be okay. Well, the concern that we have from those in our community is simply, a storage facility is a place where you store your clothing items, furniture, other household items, and things that people come in contact with daily. So what are the safety parameters on, although no one will be living there on site, if stuff is there, but you're bringing it back into your home, can that contaminate a person's home or cause a person to get sick? And then real briefly, and Mr. Mayor, you guys don't have to answer this tonight, but I just want to throw it out there to the body of our council members, being that it keep being floated around that, the lead that is there, but no residents can live on site. I think we need to be mindful. This is just the advocate part of me coming out, the activist part of me coming out. We need to be mindful that we do have a fire department that is on site over there as well. And those persons live on that land, and they're there 7 days on, 7 days off throughout the year. So I think that's something that we need to be mindful of. I just wanted to throw that little piece in there. But for the purpose of this hearing, our Civic League only had the concern of the things that will be stored in that facility. Will it be safe for persons to do that? Because if you're saying that it's not safe to live there, then why would we place our items there for storage?
Mr. Mayor, I can address that if it's appropriate at this time.
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
I
sir.
appreciate your comments, and it's a very it's a very good question. The good part, the answer is that it's not an issue. Lead is not an issue. We've dealt with other sites and other contaminants that vaporize and actually move up through the soil and into buildings, and they have to have various forms of vapor barriers and various forms of air quality issues. Lead is a very stable element. It's in the ground, actually out there, and it doesn't move or migrate. What the EPA is requiring us to do from a standpoint of construction here is simply cap this site, let everybody know that cap it with a layer of clean fill or asphalt or concrete. And then below that, there's a layer of a material that goes down to let anybody know if they're ever digging on the site, that they're going to be digging into something that may be contaminated. Because really the only health danger that lead poses is if you ingest it, either through, a drinking water situation, or you're actually working in it and it's touching you, getting on your skin. And, the thing we're dealing with lead paint in a lot of older buildings and stuff like that, where, you have to coat it completely so nobody can come in contact with it or take it off and dispose of it. In this case, everything we have is actually in the soil, and we will be very carefully doing our subsurface work. That's actually what's taking us so long to kind of get our hands around and figure that out. But once we're done, that building's up and operational, there's zero opportunity for person-to-person contact coming on our site or anything being stored on our site that would come into contact with that contaminant that is causing this site to be a Superfund site. So I appreciate the concern, but I would tell you the EPA would tell you, your local EPD would tell you that it's a non-issue once construction is complete and the building's been given a CO.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Randall, for participating tonight. Are there any other questions or from my colleagues on council? Dr. Whitaker, sir.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, that is a very sensitive site in a very sensitive community. And my concern with it is the safety issue. And I believe that before we move on any item pertaining to that site, that we should not be hearing reports on what's good or bad on that site from the developer. That needs to come from the EPA speaking with us. And I think that that would be something that we would want to hear from the EPA before we make any actions on the property. And so that would be my suggestion on this, that we hear from the EPA. And I also would like to the impact of disturbing that land on the surrounding community.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with what my colleague is saying. That was a well-publicized Superfund site. The people and the children who live there had some serious medical issues due to the contamination. It was very unusual to move a whole community. And thanks to a lady, Helen Person, who worked tirelessly making people aware of it, she got the attention of Norman Sosiski, Congressman Norman Sosiski, the late Norman Sosiski, and they worked in tandem to get the federal government to declare that a Superfund site. A lot of effort went into that. There should be a lot of information still there on the testing and possible uses after it was dealt with. A lot of soil was removed, but I agree with Dr. Whitaker. I want to hear from the EPA on their diagnosis on whether this is good, whether there's any danger to anybody. I think that's the proper thing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And if I could just add something to the discussion, the state, this General Assembly has made a commitment to ensuring environmental justice in projects that are taking place in Virginia. And I would just add to that, I would feel more comfortable with our city attorney checking with the EPA in regards to the questions that you all posed. I think that's the least we can do. Certainly, I think the project is a positive project, but we need to make sure that we do our due diligence in protecting the safety of our citizens.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't mind Attorney Stromberg making some initial contact, but I would rather the EPA representative actually come to one of our sessions where we can ask questions, because and also I would think the community would want to ask questions on something of that sensitive of a nature. I know that there was probably a some type of notice that was put out to attend a planning commission meeting, but an issue as sensitive as this and the impact it has had, I think it needs to be some ample opportunity for interaction with the EPA, the community, and the council directly, and not through just legal counsel.
I understand, sir, and that was my purpose for just asking them to contact, and we can get with the manager as well to have an EPA representative come and speak to us specifically about the challenges that are present out there, if any, and how we need to proceed.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, also as we move in that direction, when we get to that point, I also want to hear from our planning department, because this is a zoning change that's being requested. And I'm curious as to the future land use map. It had a certain designation up there, and I want to find out what was the expectation of what originally was planned to go on that property versus what it's being rezoned for.
Sir, are you okay? I think we have Mr. Baldwin here. Mr. Baldwin, can you speak to any of that concern right now, or is that something?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be glad to speak to that. And I believe that information is incorporated into the staff report as far as the mixed use designation, primarily for the land use there. And keeping along with the discussion City Council's been having, at one time this property was residential, and we have, because of the environmental constraints and the utility constraints, I've seen after a number of years, we're starting to see some commercial properties go out there that are deemed to be appropriate land uses in an area in which residential type uses aren't permitted. So from the comprehensive plan standpoint, these types of commercial uses on this type of constrained property would be considered to be in compliance with the future land use map of the comprehensive plan.
Okay. So mixed use employment.
Right. And so the idea being, these would be either a mixed use, which would include businesses that could generate employment, not necessarily only employment, but different types of mixed use. And the current zoning on the property actually has some residential designations in it which are not appropriate, and of course would not be permitted in this location. The request to go into this GMU designation, general mixed use, is really a more commercially oriented type of land use designation from the zoning change.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Mayor, I do have some information I can share with council with regard to what you're asking for on the EPA, if the council would like to hear it.
I'd rather wait to hear from the EPA, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
just
that. Yes, sir.
if my fellow council members would refer that too, that's just my personal choice. But I would like to say that it's to save the applicant, I guess, from having to file again. Could we table this until we have had further consideration? I want to make sure we do it in a proper way so that we don't have to, so that they don't have to go through a filing again or whatever.
Council members, depending on when the EPA representative could be available to come to your meeting, you could defer this to your first meeting in April. That is approximately a month from now. Or you can defer it to your next meeting, which I believe is March 23rd. But you can defer it versus tabling it. That would be easier,
Okay.
but it would need to be to a date specific if you defer it. So either you could defer to March 23rd or to the first meeting in April.
Right. Okay.
So hearing those options, is there a motion to defer this until either the March 23rd meeting, first meeting in April?
I move that we defer the Z20-10 until the first regular meeting of council in April.
And second,
That would be April 13th.
April 13th, contingent upon a hearing from the EPA.
Yes, sir. I heard a motion and seconded.
I second it.
Yes. Are we ready for the roll call, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
I'm voting to defer.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. And now, was that item A and not item B? Is that?
They have to be done separately.
Yes.
I'm gonna make the same. Mr. Barnes, Vice Mayor Barnes.
I was just gonna make the motion. I was gonna make the motion to defer UP 20-11 to the first meeting in April, contingent upon meeting with the EPA consultant.
Second.
And that's for item B, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, item B.
Yes, sir. So we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes,
Yes.
Mr. Battle,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes.
Okay. These items are both deferred until April 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Williams and Attorney Bartlett for your presence.
Mr. Mayor, is the city going to contact the EPA, or is it our responsibility to get the EPA to the meeting?
No, actually, that is something that we will do with the city. Our manager and his team will reach out to the EPA representative to bring them in to have a conversation.
Okay, we've been in contact with them. They should be very well aware of the project. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Whitaker, is it possible also to send notice to the surrounding residents in regards to the EPA meeting with us once we get a date determined?
Mr. Pace, you want to address that question, sir?
Dr. Whitaker, yes, we can make sure that the public knows that that meeting will happen. we can advertise it and make sure that they're informed.
Can we also have direct notices sent to the surrounding residents there as we would do for a hearing?
Correct. Yes.
We do have a comfort letter. We do have a letter from the EPA signed off on our plans, and your city people have coordinated that with our project. We have emails from the city staff as well as a letter from the EPA saying that they're good with our plans. So we'll hopefully that'll we can bring that to fruition for y'all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure the developer is also aware that we do have to involve the community as well. So it's not just a one-way directive.
For sure. Absolutely. And I apologize for not being aware that we need to try to coordinate an EPA person in person. We've been working with them for like 8 months now, trying to get everybody aligned on this and went to the community meeting as well. So I'm sorry that we had a misunderstanding on our side. I thought we were headed down the right direction to provide y'all with what you needed since your staff and EPA had signed off on this. And I guess I was mistaken with that. And we'll do our best to help get them there, and happy to help involve the community in any way we can.
We appreciate your due diligence, sir. Thank you. We're going to move on with our agenda to our next item, which is unfinished business. Item 21-56. And Madam Clerk, would you read the ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting the bid submitted by SQF LLC for a non-exclusive wireless facilities franchise agreement, having a term of 10 years with up to 3 renewal terms of 5 years each, authorizing the placement of wireless facilities within the city's public ways.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We'll come to item 2189. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the motion pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution rescinding Resolution R-2003.
And Madam Clerk, were there any registered speakers for this item?
No, sir. There are no speakers for this item.
Yeah, there are.
I heard somebody out in cyberspace.
Yeah, so did I. Okay, item B is for the forensic audit. It is not. Did I read the wrong item?
Yeah, you read.
I'm sorry.
Item A, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hold on 1 second.
I don't think you read item A.
Yes. Item A, adoption of a motion to request the interim city manager to contract a forensic turnover audit.
Is there a motion?
Madam Clerk, I move for Madam Clerk, members of council, I move that we adopt the item.
A second.
There's second. Councilmember Battle, second.
Yes.
Is there any discussion amongst council? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for calling, but we're unable to get the call right now. So please leave us your name, a number, and a message at the beep. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day too.
Okay. Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. I think now we have item B.
Yes, sir. Okay. A resolution rescinding Resolution R-2003.
Move for approval.
And Madam Clerk, were there any speakers?
Yes, sir, we have speakers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was too early. I'm sorry.
It's okay, sir.
Yeah.
No worries.
Our first speaker is Mr. Jason Ward.
Mr. Ward, sir, are you with us? Mr. Ward, sir?
I think I've seen. I guess it's him.
Jason Ward. Okay, maybe he'll pop on. The next speaker is Mr. Tony Tran.
Mr. Tran, are you with us, sir? Mr. Tran?
Okay. Miss Debbie, is that Mr. Tran?
This is Jason Ward.
Okay, Mr. Ward, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you guys can see me or not. Can you see me?
We can't see you yet, sir.
But we can hear you. You can go
But
forward.
we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a problem with this one. This resolution, rescinding the resolution R20-03, whereas on January 14th, 2020, City Council adopted a resolution titled "A Resolution to Support of Second Amendment Rights and Expressing Commitment to Respect, Preserve, and Uphold the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 13 of the Virginia Constitution." Don't see anything wrong with that. Whereas the prior resolution declared Portsmouth to be a Second Amendment constitutional city and urged the members of the General Assembly and the governor to take no action which would violate the freedoms guaranteed in both constitutions or burden law-abiding citizens who currently lawfully possess certain weapons and capacity magazines. Don't know why you wouldn't want to keep protecting the citizens of Portsmouth. The part I really have a problem with says that the city, it's in the sense of the city council that the prior resolution did not adequately consider or address the serious issue of gun violence and its impact on Portsmouth community. Whoever thinks that obviously wasn't at that meeting, because it was a long meeting and it was considered from both sides all night long. And this resolution, the resolution that this resolution is seeking to rescind, wasn't about addressing the serious issue of gun violence. It was about the intent of the prior resolution was to consider and address the God-given rights of the people and reaffirm the oath to defend those rights, which are guaranteed by both the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia. If the current council wishes to address the serious issue of gun violence and its impact on the Portsmouth community, that's fine. I think it could be done without rescinding the resolution that we passed last year. And it can be done in a manner that doesn't infringe on the rights of our peaceful, law-abiding citizens. I've got a lot of faith in this council. I came across a video the other day. It was the Big Homies Community Outreach Panel on Youth Gun Violence. I'm sure at least some of you are familiar with it. And it was a 2-hour video. I watched the whole thing, and it talked about reducing the addressing the issue of the violence in the city, not by restricting law-abiding citizens' rights, but finding other solutions to the problems, the root issues. Don Scott made a good point in that when he said that in 2015 we had 27 homicides. In 2016 it went down to 13, 2017 to 16. 2018 he didn't have the data for. 2019 there was 16, and then in 2020 it went up to 34. And what happened in 2020? We shut everything down. Businesses, schools. There's nothing for the kids to be doing out here, and the issues are youth gun violence, as it was stated in that video. Gang violence has nothing to do with the law-abiding citizens of Portsmouth. Like I said, the previous resolution was put intact to protect the law-abiding citizens of Portsmouth, and it should remain intact. And if this council wishes to do something about any of the violence in the city, then there needs to be another resolution of some sort to look at other programs or whatever that addresses the issue in a way that doesn't affect the law-abiding citizens. I'm not sure how much time I have here. Anybody have a count?
Yes, sir. Your time is you have about 30 seconds, sir.
Okay. I'd just like to welcome the new members of council that seem to actually care about solving a problem without infringing on the rights of the citizens that aren't the problem. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, do we have another speaker?
Yes, sir.
Mayor.
Excuse me. Is that Council Member Woodard?
Yes, this Councilmember Wood. I would like to make a motion to postpone item 21-89 indefinitely. I think it's other matters to talk about that we could be addressing at this time.
Second.
Council members, understanding what Councilman Woodard is trying to do, you could just make a motion to withdraw this item from your agenda versus putting it on the table or anything like that, and that way to just get rid of it.
Okay, well, I withdraw my first motion, and I'd like to make a motion to withdraw this item off the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion. Excuse me. Did somebody else say something?
You're muted.
Did somebody else say something? I'm sorry. I know we had a motion and a second. Was there any other comment, or was there? I guess we're opening the floor for discussion right now. Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This item should not be deferred indefinitely. When you look at the historical context out of which the original resolution was made, I just want to remind council that it was made in a context of the governor having put forth from the General Assembly legislation that the state through elections had supported, and that is putting in place some gun control measures. It also comes out of historical context that I think that council persons shouldn't put their political aspirations ahead of what has happened in our community historically, because you will note that the response that we saw back when this resolution was passed was consistent with the responses that we have always seen when there has been Black progress. The Reconstruction movement was met with the same type of action, a call to arms. During the second Reconstruction, during the Civil Rights era, we saw the same call to arms. We saw the assassination of Medgar, Martin, and Malcolm. When we see the first African American president elected, we see this unusual call to arms. And the question becomes, at whom and at what are we shooting? And we are shooting at fear and progress. And for us to, as a council, to defer an item that was created out of fear and to block progress, it is not about protecting the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment is not in danger from this council. And so I find it very troubling that we ignore history over our political aspirations, and also take into account that those citizens, those good citizens that the speaker was speaking of, though there were also good citizens sitting in those classrooms when those little children were killed. Those good citizens then run to the Capitol to defend the democracy on January the 6th. And so I would suggest that when we are acting as a council, that we also have a historical context out of which we act, and not just act irrational and make motions to protect our political careers versus what we need to do as the right thing as an elected body. I will not support any type of resolution that supports fear and progress. I'm for sanctuary of human rights, not for a sanctuary that protects guns.
Thank you, sir.
Council members, just for clarification, the motion and the second was to withdraw this item from your agenda and not to defer.
Right.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I don't think
It's just a withdrawal.
It should not be withdrawn at all. It shouldn't be withdrawn, nor deferred.
Are there any other comments from our colleagues on council? Well, I think it's important as the mayor and the leader of my council and our council. When this topic came up before, I did not support it because as an individual who has taken an oath to defend the Second Amendment and who have served my country to do so, I felt that it was not the locality power to make that kind of decision as it relates to the Second Amendment. The right to bear arms and have arms is regulated by the state, and it is not regulated by any locality. And I will defend the right of any law-abiding citizen to carry their arm legally and lawfully. but I would just ask in my comments that our city attorney clearly state, I want this to be for the record. I want the city attorney to speak on who regulates gun laws in Virginia.
Thank you, Mayor. Under 15.2-915, the state controls gun laws mostly. No locality shall adopt or enforce any ordinance, resolution, or motion, and no agent of such locality shall take any administrative action governing the purchase, possession, transfer, ownership, carrying, and so forth of guns. So yeah, the state does control. There is one provision in the state code under 15.2-915 that states that a locality can pass an ordinance if it wants, limiting guns in the workplace, recreational facilities, government properties, things of that nature. Portsmouth has not done that to my knowledge. So the state law does control, and the city has very little say on anything having to do with guns unless it passes an ordinance under this one paragraph to prohibit guns in certain areas, recreational facilities, things of that nature. The localities are allowed to do that, but it's very limited, and that's it. Otherwise, the state controls everything. These motions are more ceremonial. The one that was passed last year or whenever, it really had no teeth to it, but they did put out that statement. And but again, legally it has very little substance to it.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, I've heard that statement before, which it is ceremonial. However, it makes a statement. It makes a statement just like that Confederate monument made a statement. It set a tone. It set a culture. And I think it's time where you have to show political courage, and you have to show moral courage, and to allow for this symbol to reflect a predominantly African American community that knows the history of why people call themselves to arms. It was not because of just their love for guns. It was out of fear, and it was to block progress. And it is still the purpose today. I'm not going to be blind to that, and I'm not going to succumb to whether folks like or vote for me or not, because it comes a time where you just got to do the right thing and stand for that which is just. We are not trying to take guns from people, but why would someone want to take an automatic weapon into a recreation center full of children? Why would we need a gun in a city hall chamber? It is of no purpose. And so I ask my fellow council members to show some political courage and moral consciousness, and not ignore the historical context out of which this resolution came. Not just in 2020, but we got to go back further to 1620 to really understand this.
And Dr. Whitaker, no way was I taking a side on whether you should vote or the council should vote on that at all. I was only just referring to the law.
No. I know that. I was talking about the comment about it being ceremonial, which I know it is, but
yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and
I wasn't
I'm not taking a stance on whether it should be voted on or not tonight.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Moody. You muted, sir. You muted, sir.
You're trying to tell me I'm muted. We both had a problem with that tonight. It's a passionate subject, but a strong statement was made by the Supreme Court in I think it was District Columbia versus Heller in 2008. District Columbia wanted to say it was unconstitutional for a citizen to have a operable firearm in their home to protect their private property, to protect their residents. And they made it very clear that that was unconstitutional for the District of Columbia to try to enforce that. You know, we took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States as well as the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and you know, the Second Amendment is one of those first 10 articles referred to as the Bill of Rights. And the you know, part of that was to keep a government from becoming tyrannical or too powerful. Those founders they'd probably turn it over in the grave nowadays when you speaking of a government becoming too powerful. But the Supreme Court in 2008 made it clear that individual has a right to carry a firearm and to protect their property. In fact, I just recently got a permit to carry a concealed weapon. For the first time in my life, I bought a firearm. I've had shotguns, but I didn't buy it to carry it around like a cowboy. I bought it to protect my property, my residence, and that's people's right to do that. And you speak automatic weapons going into school. Right after that, Florida allowed teachers to have firearms as long as they had proper training. In fact, if that law enforcement officer would have had some backbone, he had a firearm and probably could have saved some lives. So I submit to you, anybody going into a school with automatic weapon, they're nobody that I would support. To me, they shouldn't have any rights, shouldn't have the right to life to take automatic weapon and kill innocent children. But what we're talking about, it is relatively symbolic because Portsmouth can't remove the Second Amendment, thankfully. And but it does send a message that we do support our Bill of Rights and our Second Amendment in particular. And so I think Councilman Woodard, that's why I'm going to support his motion to remove it, and so we can get on with business that we do have a lot of say-so in. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that it's interesting that we took an oath to support the Constitution, which included, I thought, the Second Amendment. So if you've already taken that oath, then why is there a need for a resolution? Because the resolution has nothing to do with the oath. The resolution is just part of the same old Southern strategy. We use alternative words to try to cover up the real meaning. It's not about just you protecting the Second Amendment. It's about blocking progress. And whenever you see progress, there's always a call to arms. I'm not going to support it. I'm conscious of it. And I hope that my fellow council members will be conscious as well.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. From the speaker that just got off the call, I was actually on that panel speaking about gun violence and also providing solutions as well. So my thing is there's other ways to make sure that we can correct violence and deal with gun violence in our own way. And it's to do the work. You know, I make sure that I'm present when there are talks of gang violence or any dysfunction within my community and other communities as well. So it's other ways to provide solutions. And that's what we're here for. We're here to provide solutions and protect the rights of our citizens. So thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Dr. Whitaker.
this motion has nothing to do with interfering with solutions. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. This motion has nothing to do with trying to block solutions coming forward, and we need to stop camouflaging and hiding behind that so that it prevent us from showing moral courage.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Lucas Burke. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Whitaker, for the history lesson, and also Councilman Bill Moody. We've heard this robust conversation, and as a member of council last year who voted in opposition to this matter, I also am here to defend the Constitution. I think we all took that same oath, but I think we all also want to have the right to defend our property and our homes. Be the first one to say that if you step across this door sill, me or my husband would be one to defend our home. So I'm not against anyone's Second Amendment rights. And I do have that moral courage. I voted no last time. I didn't think that this needed to be an item that was brought up for discussion. We have greater things we do need to handle in our city. We don't have a city manager. We're in need of appointing a permanent city attorney. We're in need of appointing a permanent city assessor. We have objects that we need to handle, and the controversy behind it. We received over 100 letters from citizens on this matter, and it's not a matter of our moral courage. We know that we all support the Second Amendment. We all know that we support the Constitution, and the resolution that we passed, that the council passed last year, I was in opposition to it, didn't give us any authority to do anything. Our legislators in the General Assembly were elected to handle those matters, and we're not. We didn't say that we were going to be a Second Amendment city, a 2A city. We just said that we're going to uphold the Constitution, and we do that anyway. We don't need a resolution to tell us that. So right now, I call for the motion that's on the floor.
Is there any other discussion? Are we ready for roll call, Madam Clerk? And
Yes,
what is the, let's remind everyone again, what is the motion and what is for and against?
I move to rescind resolution R20-03.
Councilman Whitaker, we have a motion on the floor to withdraw this item from the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a second. So at this point, council would be voting electronic.
Right.
Well, not electronic.
So yes. I guess what I want to be clear with everybody, yes be to withdraw.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
yes to withdraw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, say it again.
Yes to withdraw. No, not to withdraw.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
No.
Mrs. Lucas Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
No.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
No.
This item has been withdrawn by a vote of 4-3.
Mr. Barnes, prepared to read the statement at this time?
The 15-day statement, sir.
I'm sorry, Vice Burns.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3712B, within 15 days of this notice, City Council intends to conduct closed meeting at an undisclosed location or electronically for the purpose of interviewing candidates for the position of city manager. Should the need arise to conduct additional closed meetings for the same purpose after the 15-day period ends, City Council will reissue this notice.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
No roll is necessary, sir. It's just a statement that had to be read.
Okay, thank you. We've come to item 21-90, report on pending items. Mr. Pace, are there any pending items, sir?
There are no pending items, Mayor. Thank you.
I would like to mention, if I could, I know we have a report back from our city attorney regarding the policies on minority contracting in other areas. Could we please prepare to do that at a later time? That update, that report back at our next meeting?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Dr. Whitaker.
Yeah, I just want to ask that if Attorney Stromberg, it was an email that we sent in regards to the timeline pertaining to rescinding section 3.11, the non-interference clause, if he's able to get that to us before our next work session.
Actually, I can go through that right now if you like. Would you rather wait for the work session?
You can email it to us, and then we can discuss it at the work session.
Okay. And the other item on the disparity and minority and disparity remedial actions, we sent out a very complex memo. I hope everybody has gotten that. It's pretty revolutionary, pretty progressive of what we're looking at. We're excited about that because the way we were able to, especially Jeff Miller of my office, did a fantastic job, bring in so many sources. We can talk about it at the next meeting, the work session if you like, and let you know how we want to move forward on that also.
Are we okay with that, sir?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. And we've come to item 21-91, non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, do we have any non-agenda speakers?
Yes, sir. Just one, Mr. Mark Wodoldik-Yatrovsky.
Mr. Wodoldik-Yatrovsky.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members,
sir. You have 5 minutes.
neighbors. Thank you. So this meeting has taken some twists and turns, and I'm going to twist and turn myself. As somebody who on January 14th, 2020, was one of 2 people in the chamber who spoke in opposition to the Second Amendment sanctuary item. You may wonder, those of you who were present at that time, why I would be opposed to the rescission of that item at this point in time. And the reason is that there are more productive ways for you to go about getting to the position you want to be in vis-a-vis gun control.
You're muted.
You're muted, sir.
I hate when that happens. So did you hear anything? Or?
Yeah, we did.
We heard a little bit, but we lost a little bit. So
okay, so I'll just pick up. So the reason that I was opposed to the resolution that's been withdrawn is that the original resolution was rather meaningless in the context of the events that have transpired since then. The members of the General Assembly did what they said they were going to do, which was bring before the houses, the Senate and the House of Delegates, measures to put in place reasonable restrictions on guns. So even though people came out across the Commonwealth in an orchestrated response to the election that they didn't like the fact that the Republicans had finally lost control in both houses. So in essence, they were trying to undo an election. The members of the House and Senate did their duty despite this orchestrated response. And at this point in time, the most effective thing I believe that you could do as members of our city council is put together any additional reasonable restrictions on gun ownership and use that you think the General Assembly should consider at its next session. You will be putting together your legislative packet later this year. Look at how we could make the city safer with legislation at the level of the Commonwealth and advocate for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Madam Clerk, are there any other speakers?
No, sir.
Well, I want to thank you all for participating tonight. That concludes our work to be done. Are there any other questions from members of council? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Well,